Alright, you know what? I've been sat here making videos for ages and I figure why not throw another one in there, although you won't see those until quite a while, but WrestleDiary. Let's get back to talking about some wrestling very briefly. Very briefly. That's probably turned out to be a 30-minute video. I haven't talked about wrestling for a while, and that's because I took quite a break from watching wrestling regularly. After the G1 climax, holy shit, I was done. I mean, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but when I've seen like a great movie, like a movie that just feels like it changed my life, even though it didn't really, like just a fantastic film, I don't feel like going straight into another one, you know. I want to let it simmer. I want to let it kind of have some time to kind of sink into my brain a little bit. And with the G1 Climax tournament in New Japan, it was just one of the best things I'd ever seen as a wrestling fan, and I didn't want to jump back into watching more wrestling. I just want to let it breathe a little bit. However, I was interested in checking out the Mae Young Classic tournament that the WWE were putting on. I believe they started it in August and they released the episodes in September. And then we had the live final after a SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. So I watched every match. I skimmed through some of the entrances because, you know, it was one of those things where the binge watch model wasn't quite tailored to my kind of needs. I would have liked it to be spaced out week by week, but I guess they wanted to kind of just unload it all. And it did very well, apparently, for the network, so fair play. I guess it worked. But it was actually quite easy to catch up, and the matches were very short, and I was intrigued in each woman and what they brought to the table. It was nowhere near the level of the Cruiserweight Classic in terms of match quality, but that was okay. You know, I liked seeing, again, what every woman had to bring to the table. 32 female competitors in the tournament from all different walks of life, different countries, different promotions, a lot of them not signed by the WWE. There was a Chinese woman who I believe it was her first ever match. I don't know if that's kayfabe or not, but if that's true, holy shit, she did good. I mean, it wasn't a great match, but if that was her first match, it's pretty damn good. She's got some pretty good prospects, I think. I forget who the woman's name was. So, not a lot of great matches, and not a lot of bad matches either. I mean, all the matches were at least good. You know, there were at least something good in them, and I really enjoyed them. And again, was trying to look at the positives. You know, there were some things where I was like, well, that wasn't too good, but they did that good. You know, I was trying to like be kind with it when I was watching it, but which I shouldn't be. You know, I fully understand, but I was trying to focus on the positives more than the negatives. But there were some people who I did see negatives in. One of the big ones being Shayna Baszler, who is this mixed martial artist who's been a fighter for over 15 years, and she's now moved over to professional wrestling, which she loves very much. And I think the transition has been interesting for her, from what I've seen. And her matches in the tournament, before the final, of course she went to the final, the live final after SmackDown. I didn't like her that much in the tournament in a lot of ways, but I appreciated other things she did. I thought she had a great presence to her. She felt legit. She had that just commanding presence. Again, she just felt like someone to be contended with. She held herself very well. And she had a great finish, that kind of falcon arrow into the rear naked choke. Incredible. I loved how she got into that in various different ways throughout the tournament. But her strikes really bothered me. Like, whenever she was about to kick someone and they were going to duck, she would like throw it at like half speed. And it just looked like she was intentionally not hitting it. And it's like, oh, that stuff's brutal. You really need to work on that stuff. So I was really not impressed by the overall package of Shayna Baszler. I thought that's just a key thing that you should know how to do. In the final, she ended up kind of throwing a couple of strikes that didn't hit, that looked like she was really trying to hit them. So I don't know whether it was just one of those things where it was just on the day she just forgot to do it. I don't know, but I was more impressed by her in the final. A lot of other women I was impressed by. Bianca Belair I thought was great. When I first saw her, I thought, yeah, no, it just seemed like very generic in terms of the character she had, but the gimmick with the hair was great. Something, I mean, how often can you in wrestling say that I've never seen that before, where she's whipping people with her hair and it's a legal thing? That's just a heat seeker. That's such a good weapon in the arsenal of a heel, and I thought she was really athletic, really good, really enjoyed her matches. We had Toni Storm, was very good. I feel like her character needs work or needs to be just something. I mean, when I was watching it, Connie was watching and she said she looks like the creator character on Guitar Hero. And I was like, yeah, just mishmash. I don't get a feel for who she is other than, yeah, wrestling, you know. In the ring, fantastic, but the character wasn't really there for me. Piper Niven, I believe is her name. She has, I think she's called Viper in Japan and so on, but a very big girl and impressed me immensely. Despite her size, very athletic. just had a great style. I loved her work in the tournament. One of my favorites for sure. Who else was there that really stood out? There was an Indian woman who was very green, but I felt like she had a lot of promise. Her match wasn't very good, but I saw something in her. Kavita Devi or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of work is needed with that woman, but I think there's some promise there to be quite a big imposing presence. Speaking of big imposing presences, Jazzy Gabor, I believe, the German lady. Really, really cool because the crowd got invested in her from minute one. It was just so fun to see that crowd rise up for Jazzy, even though she lost. It was a great finish, by the way, that kind of alligator pin by Abby Lath, I think. I'm going to be forgetting names here, but Jazzy was one who I thought, oh wow, she probably should have gone a bit further. But yes, I'm trying to think if there's more that I really need to touch on. Tony Storm. Who's that one who was also tall and blonde? Rhea Ripley. I thought she was very good as well. Yeah, a lot of great prospects in the tournament that I thought were really good. But of course, the shining star was Kairi Sane, the Japanese wrestler who was very much the star of the show, and ran through everyone basically with that diving elbow drop. And for me, as someone who used to do the diving elbow drop when I wrestled, and I think I was pretty damn good at it, I appreciate a good elbow drop, and I'll be damned if she doesn't have the best one I've ever seen in the history of wrestling. I mean, it's spectacular, and I just think to myself, damn, why didn't I do it like that? I did one like that once, I think, and it absolutely killed me. I jumped up, my legs went up. My legs were more kind of on level with myself than above my head. Like her legs are fucking hitting the roof. But I proper went like side with it, and as soon as I landed, like all the air in my body just went. Yeah, I was fucked. But I don't know how she does it without really hurting herself. But she kind of missed one of them, which is kind of hairy, where her whole body weight landed on this poor girl. But she has been great. What an amazing underdog babyface Kairi Sane is. I mean, she knows how to get crowd behind her. She really knows how to eke that emotion out until the finale and really gets everyone on their feet for her matches. Now the final, which I was really intrigued by because it was a SmackDown crowd. I was thinking, they're not going to be as into it as the Full Sail NXT crowd, and they weren't. But they were into it, and I was really happy that they treated it like a deal, and the SmackDown crowd were really good and made it feel more important by getting into the match, getting chants going, and reacting to some of the big moments. Shayna Baszler, I thought, did fantastic in the match. She really won me over in this final match of the tournament. Kairi was great as always, and I think that again she just continues to be a great underdog babyface. I think she's going to do great things in NXT as long as she doesn't get injured or anything like that. I hope she does win the NXT Women's Championship, even though it's that kind of, putting it on another Japanese woman. I think she's just one of those people who you can kind of build that title back up around again and make it continue to make the NXT Women's Championship feel as special as it has been over the past 2 years, and have people chasing Kairi for the championship. Then again, with her underdog kind of speciality, perhaps it might be better to have her chasing the title for longer. And given that it's a multi-woman match, I think that maybe having the decision made where Kairi doesn't win the title but she isn't involved in the decision would be a good way to go, and have Kairi chase that title over a couple of takeovers and get that big win. Maybe that's probably the best way to go, actually thinking about it. So I kind of talked myself out of that idea already. Anyway, the final of the Mae Young Classic. Really good match. Not a great match, but a really good match. And I loved how Shayna Baszler was working over the arm of Kairi Sane. And maybe Kairi should have sold the arm a little bit more towards the end of the match, but I love how Kairi worked over the ribs of Shayna Baszler, and she kept going for that spear, she kept reversing it, and then finally out of nowhere she run off the opposite end, hit her with that spear, and Shayna was selling those ribs like she'd been shot. Like, such good selling from Shayna Baszler. I thought she was fantastic in that match. And I didn't notice until I watched the match for a second time when I showed it to Connie that that move where you have your opponent sat down in the corner and Kairi runs towards him and just like hits him with a forearm across the chest. She did that to the ribs at the very end of the match. I thought it was such a great little just final kind of nail in the coffin before she went up for that elbow drop and pinned her for the 1-2-3. And also just little beats where like she pinned Shayna 1-2-3 and then Shayna just kind of shoved her off afterwards, like fuck off, It wasn't that typical thing where Shayna, as this kind of badass MMA chick, just kind of, shoved her away or anything. She gave her props and gave her a little hug at the end, but didn't make it overly emotional. She gave her a hug, fair play, and then she just left, basically. So I liked that, and I hear that she signed. I think that's good. Although it's going to be interesting to see how you deal with someone who is so legit as a former MMA fighter and have them as a full-time member of the roster. I mean, I don't know if you want to do a Brock Lesnar thing where she's only there, you know, for like 30 dates of a year. I don't think that's going to work. You're going to need to build her up more than that. She's not a Brock Lesnar in terms of name value. So how does it work when you have someone who's that legit on a show every week wrestling, unless you have them run through everybody? And there's only a certain amount of running through everybody you can do. So I don't know how they're going to fit her into the overall plan, but I'm assuming she'll go to NXT, and I'd love to see a rematch actually between Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane for the NXT Women's Championship. But there we go, that's my thoughts on the Mae Young Classic. I really enjoyed it. Very good tournament. A huge step forward for women in wrestling, and a great opportunity for all of these women. I mean, there's some women who are like 21. And I'm like, man, that's a great opportunity, that young. Obviously not all of them are signed, but they got that exposure. They got their name kind of more on the sheet, so to speak, as far as the WWE brass are concerned, you know. If they impress, and that's a good thing. So, and people are talking about them doing it annually. I don't think that's going to happen, but it was a great thing to see. And the commentary, I didn't like very much. JR and Lita did not make for a very good commentary team, I have to say. I don't feel like JR really has got it anymore. He's still a very good commentator, but he just doesn't have that spark that he used to. I'm not going to speculate on why, but yeah, the commentary was a little lacking at times. Cringeworthy at times as well. I mean, it was okay in parts, but some of it was just like, ugh, just stop. But yeah, what more can I say, really? I feel like there's probably people I've left out as far as the women who impressed me, but I guess that's really it. So I really enjoyed the concept. I loved watching it, and watching all the matches, and I didn't think I'd watch all the matches because there were so many of them. They dumped all of them at once, but I got through them. I enjoyed them very much. My favourite match of the tournament is probably the final, I think. I mean, Kairi Sane had the best matches. Apart from Kairi Sane matches, I would say that Toni Storm versus Piper Niven was my favourite match. I loved that match. That was fantastic. Really, really, really good. So, yeah, there we go. That's my thoughts on the Mae Young Classic. Leave your thoughts down below if you watched it. If you didn't, I'm just talking to myself. But I was a big fan of it, so there we go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.